This is the OMFL.
You can't touch this.
And you're in the mix with Kinda Real Name. Here's another OMFL production.
What's up, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages? Welcome to the OMFL's weekly podcast show not with all due respect, that's the wrestling show. This is Press Pass Live. I'm getting it all mixed up in my own head, but thanks for tuning in with us today. Let me quickly introduce everyone. I am your commish, the founder of Grown Folks Online Community, the founder of the OMFL, Nate, and as always with me, my good buddy D-Wayne and Mr. Dawson, my two Arkansas brethren. How you guys doing today?
Pretty good on this Saturday morning or Saturday.
All good. Arkansas can't lose today, so we're all good.
It's always a good day when Arkansas can't lose. One could only hope that they just get rid of their football program, and then you guys could just never have to worry about another loss for the rest of your life. I'm going to enjoy it while I can, because I'm pretty sure by tonight I will be licking my wounds, as it's a pretty big football weekend here in South Louisiana with LSU and Alabama, and then, of course, the Saints and the Rams. So should be a fun weekend. I'm ready to be on the sidelines for that game tomorrow and kind of ready to watch LSU tonight. So let's just jump right into it. We haven't had a show in a while. Well, because we did a big draft show for 4.5 hours, and then there really wasn't a whole lot to talk about. So let's talk about the team that won it all, the San Francisco 49ers. They are already 3-0 this season, but they won it all behind a vicious defense and an offense that was able to make just enough plays on that side of the ball. Already that defense is off to a great start this year, but let's give them props. Let's give them their due. Finally, we did not have a back-to-back champion, as Mo and his Seahawks have won 4 in a row before the 49ers did it. But the NFC is still showing that they are the more powerful conference of the two. What do you guys think about the San Francisco 49ers?
Go ahead, Dawson.
Congrats to Big Hurt. I think in the beginning of the season and even throughout the season, even when we did the playoff prediction, we kind of figured Mo would kind of sneak a win in there and not surprise anybody, but to consistently play in the OMFL Bowl. But Big Hurt, he kind of snuck in there. He's been with us for the last few years. I'm not sure exactly how long he's been here. He was here before me. But I want to say this is his first OMFL trophy, so hats off to him. Congrats. Now, guys, we're understanding or not, or they're more alert on his team. The way he built that team is a win now team. So I know I was looking at his team on Daddy's League, and he's got $4 million cap space. So he's throwing everything, all the chips in to win now. It'll be interesting to see how far he can play this out throughout the cycle. But overall, he did get that big win in season 80. So congrats, and like you said, he's 3-0. So he's looking to, defend it. And as right now, he has.
Yeah, I think we all knew that Big Hurt and the 49ers had it in them to do this. He's been a playoff team for the most part every season he's been here, always competing for a spot. And for a couple of years he was back with the Cowboys. He was a couple plays away from being in the OMFL Bowls then. I think it's just like I tell anybody else, luck plays a factor into it, and that's not taking anything away from Big Hurt. You just have to have the ball roll your way sometimes, especially in the playoffs, and you have to have that. And it worked well. Like he said, he had a really close couple of games. He won a really tough game against the Falcons to get into the OMFL Bowl, And then he played an up-and-coming Patriots team who, surprised a lot of people, but played very good, solid football and made for a very exciting OMFL Bowl. And I think it's well deserved on Big Hurt's part. It's been a long time coming. And, I'm not going to lie to you, at the first of this season, he jumped over the 49ers from the Patriots, if I'm not mistaken, which kind of makes it interesting. He jumped over at the last minute when the 49ers were left open by Duvall. And like I said, you have to give him props on taking this team there. They weren't the best coming out of the box. They weren't a bad team, but they were not the best. And like I said, Big Hurt is one of the better guys on the sticks here. He's smart football-wise. He's very intelligent when it comes to the game. And like I said, it's well-deserved. And like I said, it is nice. And no shot at Mo. It is nice to see a new champion there.
Yep, absolutely. Look, he did it with defense, right? And he did it his way. And it's the OMFL Bowl, right? He made just enough plays on offense to keep the other team honest. And it was a good battle. It looked like the Patriots began to get some things figured out. They turned to the running game, which they were having a lot of success on. And they didn't stick with it. And the 49ers were able to make that comeback pretty late and put it away late. The score showed it to be a much wider margin of victory than the game probably actually was. It was a pretty close game. The Patriots had a lead in the second half of that game. And it just, to me, it was a really, really good game. And just hats off to the 49ers for doing it. They had a lot of injuries that they battled through. I think they were on their fourth or fifth defensive lineman. They lost 2 during that game. It just kind of was back and forth. And the 49ers did it. And congrats to them. They earned it. Congrats to Big Hurt. Hopefully this will be the last one that we have to win with from Big Hurt. We can get us another new champion here this year. So let's talk about it, man. We had a great draft show. It feels like 3 weeks ago, but it was actually probably less than a week ago, last Friday night. Had a really great draft show. Lots of people turned out. We had the most guests that we've ever had on our draft show come on and be with us, and it just was a really good night. I always enjoy doing those. Dwayne was able to be with me, helping me out, and again, lots of guests to come on and talk about their season, their off-season trades, all that fun stuff. Since we're on that subject, I'll throw a little caveat out there. We are changing the trading calculator a little bit. We're going to bump it up to 15% instead of 10%, and we're going to allow fourth-round draft picks to be an in-between type. What's the word I'm looking for? An in-between piece. So you can either use it in the calculator if you need to help make up some gap, or it can also not be used in the calculator, and it can just be, as it is now, a piece that does not count. So we did want to throw that out there. It does count as a piece if you put it in the calculator, but we wanted to add a little bit more flexibility, but there'll be no more. I think that we've been more than kind to figure this out. Adding fourth rounders to the calculator and adding the 15% also means that the workaround that we've been allowing, which has been you work a trade out that works in the calculator, then you work a second trade out that doesn't need to go in the calculator, the owners agree to both, and the overall deal works for both teams. We won't be allowing that nearly as much. I mean, it may still happen, and if we feel okay with it, we may allow it, but we're going to tighten down on those because we've given you 15% gap now and allowed those fourth rounders to be put in there. I think that's more than enough, which kind of brings me to some sad news before we get into our games in weeks 1, 2, and 3. And that is that when Ziploc and I were speaking about the trade calculator, because he's our guy that works on that, he helped build that. I mean, he did build it. He took my idea and ran with it. He mentioned that he was going to have to step away, that life has just become too much. I was in the middle of a stream, and so I could not answer him. And when I did, he was already offline. I'm, some of me hopes that he comes back today and says, "Oh, you know what? I'm going to hang in there. I'll do this, I'll do that, and try to make it work." But I'm thinking he's probably going to have to step away, which happens, right? Bill's had to step away before. Maniac has had to step away before. Other owners have had to step away for a little bit and then came back to us later. And so life happens, right? And Zip will always have a place here in the OMFL, and we will always open the door wide for him anytime he wants to come back. So if that does happen, Savante will be leaving the Cardinals and taking the Eagles. The Cardinals are open. We have another guy whose name is Tim in the OMFL too. He's part of their leadership. Used to commission leagues back in the day. May still commission a league. I'm not 100% sure. But he's going to come over and take whatever team is open. And then that brings us to the other, I guess, sad announcement that isn't quite official, and that is that Outlaw may be leaving us. I think everybody knows that we've been super worried about Outlaw. We did touch base kind of with him. At least we know that he's healthy and well, and is dealing with some situations that we don't. I don't have any details. Even if I did, I wouldn't share them. It's his business, and we want to be respectful of that. But at the same time, we're not in communication with him. We've only heard from him once in the past 2 weeks, and so he has a deadline of Monday to kind of let us know if he's around and what he needs and what's his timeline. And if we don't hear from him, Sally, we will have to replace him. Don't have an owner for him yet, but somebody for the OMFL2 will be moving up to take the Bears. I guess we'll probably open them up for 24 hours to any current owners first before we go ahead and get them filled. So, got all the yucky stuff out of the way. Let's talk about weeks 1, 2, and 3. It's been a fun and exciting season already. I love our sliders. I feel like we finally got it where we need it, and we've had some pretty fun games. Dawson, I'm going to throw it over to you. Give me your one game out of week 1, 2, or 3 that stuck out to you, and let's talk about it.
Yeah, the one game that stood out for me, I'm going to go with the Lions and Packers in week 1. We all know Priest, he got him a receiver in the offseason, Cooper Kupp. I, for one, found out in week 2. I think the go-to percentage or go-to Kupp was about 80% of Aaron Rodgers' throws. But I found that out. The final score of week 1 game was 27-33. Packers won by 6. Just looking at the team stats for the game, Priest relied heavily on his passing game and got him the win. 394 total passing yards compared to Lions at 172. While the Lions did win the turnover battle 3-1, they did give up a total of 3 sacks. The telling sign of the game was the third down conversions. Lions were at 46%, while the Packers were at 69%. So that was a big contributor for the Packers on getting that win. It was a solid battle of the North type game. Haymakers were thrown by both teams, but in the end, Packers won 33-27. And for the time being, it did push Packers in that NFC